Welcome back to the Morning Blend. Our next guest was very active in state politics, first as a senator and later as governor. In later years, Marty Schreiber lost elections for governor of Wisconsin as well as mayor of Milwaukee. But through it all, his wife Elaine was by his side. The couple had 4 children and a successful business life.
And about 15 years ago, Elaine developed Alzheimer's, and since then, Marty has been a strong advocate for caregivers. Marty wrote this book called Two Elaines, and he has sold or given away more than 30,000 books and speaks all over the country, but never get this, accepts any fees for it. And Marty joins us now with advice on how to handle the grieving process when the person you love is still alive. Hey, Marty, good to see you.
Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Molly. What an honor for me to be with you once again. So thank you so very, very much. Thank you.
We love having you here. It's so true. You're one of our favorite people to talk to. And I think it's just, your sincerity that comes through, and the words you say always just mean so much. And I think people are looking for that in a time, especially when they're dealing as a caregiver for someone with Alzheimer's, because there's so much pain when someone kind of becomes 2 different people, which is, in essence, the name of your book, My Two Elaines.
Well, there is no question about that. And one of the challenges, we're going to be talking about grieving, but grieving is shared, of course, by all people when there is a deep, deep loss. And the Alzheimer's caregiver has a little bit different type of grieving process because it's an ambiguous loss, meaning that I'm a widower, but I still have a wife. And if there is a loss of a death, there's finality, and society has found a way to deal with expressing and helping someone through a loss when there is a finality. But society we have not quite figured out how we can help an Alzheimer's caregiver struggle through this process of having lost someone who is still with them. And that's a challenge.
Somebody's giving you a few little chimes there, Marty. I just heard that.
Well, guess what? I promised myself I would remember to turn off the phone, and by gosh, I'd turn it off. Thank you.
We all do it.
Yep, we all do it. It happens even on live TV, and it's no problem.
Really? No, I don't believe that.
Marty, I want you to share your analogy about pain, because you talk about the pain you experience when the person you love is still living and you're grieving the loss of the person who was. What is that analogy about the flame?
Well, what I'd like to have us do is not only envision a flame on a stove where we put our hand and we immediately feel the pain. We remove our hand, and what happens then is from there on, it's a matter of suffering, dealing with that pain. And the good news is, there is good news, and the hope is that we can learn how to deal with that suffering. When someone loses the loved one in immediate death, they too have hope, because they too can learn how we can deal with the suffering. And we can deal with the suffering by acknowledging it, by making sure we understand that, yes, indeed, this is one of the greatest losses that we could ever want to experience. But then by the same time, to realize the hope is that we can deal with this suffering and once again be involved in a new normal and have our lives continue, still knowing that we missed the loss of our loved one, but still knowing that we have to move forward for our own benefit, but mainly for our children's and our grandchildren's benefit, and for whom else we might be able to help along the way.
So true. And I know you talk a lot about letting go of the person who once was and then being able to embrace the one who now is. And I've heard that there's a story that you have about the hippopotamus and the butterfly, and that may help us.
Well, thank you. It is a hippopotamus and a butterfly who fell in love, and they're about to be married. And it's beginning to dawn on the hippopotamus, how am I ever going to consummate this marriage, being married to a butterfly? So he seeks out the wise owl. He says, I'm a hippopotamus about to be, how do I consummate that marriage? Well, says the wise owl, all you have to do is turn yourself into a butterfly. Well, the hippopotamus accepted that advice and began to and then how do I turn myself into a butterfly? Well, says, it goes back to the wise owl, how do I turn myself into a butterfly? And the wise owl says, get lost, Buster. He says, all I do is determine policy. And so when I share this with people, I tell them this is policy. This is so very, very, very difficult, but so very critically important for our lives to move on. And that is to let go of the person who once was, so that we can now not only embrace the person who now is, but embrace other areas of our life where we can contribute to have a meaningful, loving impact. I do have a bit of a drawing here. I just want to show it to you. They say that it comes through. So if you can see,
Oh, yeah.
It says, it's hard to be happy. It says, it's hard to be happy. And then it goes on to say, because we refuse to let go of the things that make us sad. And so say that we can cure our suffering. It's like if you're injured in an automobile accident and they say you'll never walk again, but then you find out you can, but you have to work at it. You just can't rise up your bed and walk again. What you have to do is understand you have to do the necessary kinds of things. One of them certainly is exercise. One of them certainly is acknowledging your loss. One of them certainly is taking care of yourself in other ways. So, yes, it's heartbreaking, but yes, to understand that there is that hope, the ability to learn how to deal with the suffering.
All right, so Marty, we only have about a minute left. We have some pictures of Elaine before, because one of the things you talk about in your book is what a great partner she was. You had 4 children, you have 4 children together. She was a beautiful bride. She would throw dinner parties for business co-workers of yours, executives. You became a very successful lobbyist after your political career. You were successful in business and consulting, and she was a beautiful, loving wife to you. And that's the person before. She's now had Alzheimer's for about 17 years, and I know she lives in a memory care community. And so you're all about that process of letting go of the person who was. And we also have video, because I know you were featured in Positively Milwaukee, of her now in the place where she's living now. How are you handling this? And we only have a short bit of time left, but tell us how you manage and cope with seeing her now the way she is now.
To rejoice in every smile I might get, to know that I may bring comfort to her holding her hand, to know that she might recognize and hear singing that makes her feel good. It is so hard, and that's a butterfly all over again, but it is so hard to let go. And just quickly, I did not do a very good job of this in the beginning. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. I tried to do it by myself. I didn't understand what was happening. I did not understand ambiguous loss. I didn't understand any of those things. And that led me down a path which I would hope no other person has to go down. And therefore the book, to try and help other caregivers learn, cope, and survive, and to rejoice in the moment. And I guess that's really about all of life, is it not? Whether our loved one is in a wheelchair in a nursing home, or whether our kids are at home because they can't go to school, or whatever it might be, to rejoice in life for the moment. Gosh, what greater thing could they ever do?
That is so wonderful, Marty. I love having you on the show so much. In
Me
fact,
too.
I've booked you now, I think, every month or every couple months, because I just think everything you say is like gold. And I appreciate your time and your experience and how willing you are to share your story as well as help other caregivers. Thank you so much for today.
Well, thank you very much for what you do to bring happiness and hope to people. So thank you.
Appreciate it, Marty. We'll talk to you again
Marty.
very soon. And Marty's book is called My Two Elaines. You can find it, learn more about his story, and you can also find some great resources for caregivers at mytwoelaines.com.